So I heard a lot of German names. And I spent almost 40 years in Germany. Also wir können das auch auf Deutsch machen, aber ich glaube, unser französischer Freund wird da nicht fröhlich sein. So it's only English I heard, so let's do that. TYPO3, I didn't know anything about TYPO3 until Edward asked me, but then I'm not a really technology guy. I studied mechanical engineering and electrical engineering a long time ago, but actually I spent most of my life in some sort of management, so maybe a little bit boring for when I look at you guys here doing all exciting stuff. So today I will talk about a couple of things. It's a mixed bag, actually. So it's a bit about the company and about where I come from. It's a bit about the topic we are trying to solve within 8vance. And it's also, on special requests, a bit about the technology we use, a bit about neural networks, just a little bit, because actually I don't know too much about that. So, yeah, basically that's the schedule for today. I would like to invite all of you to chime in, so keep this interactive. If you have a question, just raise your hand, and yeah, we keep it interactive. Okay? Someone's trying to come in, I think. Okay, so like I said, I spent almost 20 years as in management. My last position was EMEA CEO of Wacom. Maybe you know this pen tablet company. So we were based in Germany, not far from here actually. And we started as a really small company. I think when I joined it was like 25 or something, I can't remember. And then we started growing really fast. And we were only basically selling in Germany, and a bit in France, a bit in the UK. And after 10 years, we were covering 44 countries in the EMEA region. Meaning we had to recruit a lot of people, and we had to set up businesses in a lot of regions. And that was really, well, it was very exciting, first of all, but it was also really difficult. And that's the reason why we came to the solution I'm just going to talk about later on. I worked with some other big companies, but it was always marketing, management, technology related. And it was the corporate world. It was, from 2007, I was executive officer of the mother company in Japan, in Tokyo. And it was the world with suits and ties. And then back in 2012, I took a sabbatical. And I thought, we have these problems in 8vance, in Wacom, to grow quicker, to find talent in Dubai, to find talent in the UK, especially the UK, by the way. Anyone from the UK? No one? Okay, then I can tell this. It won't be on YouTube, will it? No. The UK is the worst market for recruitment. So I mean, there are, of course, good recruits in the UK, but on average, it's terrible. So UK was one of our battlefields, so to speak. But if you, I remember a flight to Dubai. I had a conversation, an interview with our first employee in Dubai. It was a fantastic interview. He was the dream candidate. We had a good connect, at least that's what I thought. And yeah, I flew back. I thought, well, we got a guy in Dubai. And I never heard anything after from this person. He didn't respond to my emails, to my calls. I never, ever heard anything of this guy. So that's where intercultural recruitment is really playing a big role. So I was completely mistaken. That was in the early days, I have to say. We learned a bit afterwards. But that's one of the reasons why we started 8vance. So now before that, we were doing press conferences and we had suits and ties, and now we are in some offices and we're drinking beer and we're doing just cool stuff. And that's the change of life. Now, of course not, but it's a bit more flexible now, I have to say. So what do we do? So back in 2012, while I was doing my sabbatical, I thought, how can we solve this first phase of the recruitment process? So I'm not sure, maybe some of you have already hired people. You start looking for people. Some people are already trying to find people here. They have different hidden agendas. But But let's say, so finding people is really a problem, especially if there's a shortage on the market. And so I thought, well, we are in this fantastic age. I'm an engineer. I mean, I try to hide it and pretend being manager, but originally I'm an engineer. So I thought, why not solve this a bit different? Why not use all the data that's out there in one form or another and try to combine and do stuff with that and find people easier? And also not only find people and names and stuff like that, but also know, okay, if I have a list to call, I would call this person first, and then after that I would call this person. So, so I started thinking about how we could solve that, and we came up with all kinds of technological innovations, and we ended up with neural networks at some point. And then we were starting to build a talent management solution, actually roughly early 2013. And so we were putting a research team together. And then I was doing presentations like this one. And I met a guy who was working for an insurance company. And after the meeting, he came to me and said, what you guys are doing with all the data and finding people on the net, regardless of where the data comes from, can you do that as well with objects, with cars, for instance, or with boats? So why would you like to do that? Yeah, we are an insurance company and we insure cars and boats and I don't know, all these capital goods. And these products are stolen. We insure them and we have to pay, of course, the damage. And then the guys who steal this stuff offer it again on the internet. So if I would know where this car is sold, then I would be able to retrieve that car. And could you do that? So I said, I don't know. In theory, it's the same problem. You have a spec, a list of features, a description of something, and you want to find it back on the internet. And you have many, many similar objects. So if you're looking for the new BMW X5 or whatever, it's the new type. I drive Audi, as you can hear. So how can I distinguish this one BMW from the other one? That is actually the whole problem we've tried to solve. And so we said, in theory, we can do that, but we can't guarantee any results. And we started a project with an insurance company called Delta Lloyd, Dutch company. Very entrepreneurial insurance company, I have to say. And we built a system which we call Sherlock, but spelled a little bit different. I think it's spelled like this. And actually, we paused our HR project for a while, and we focused on Sherlock. And we built a system, and while we're building the system, we retrieved already large amounts of let's say, stolen objects, which actually made this project not a lost project, meaning it didn't cost money. The project was delivering money while we were building it. Meaning that we now suddenly, all of a sudden, had a second leg to stand on as a company, which is a claim burden reduction. So, and we are now currently actually rolling this out to other insurance companies. In that same period, people from the real estate market came to us and said, well, if you can find people from big data, you can also find the ideal place to live for my customers. And so we said, yes, maybe we can. And we founded a little spin-off, which we didn't manage ourselves, but uses our technology, called Domus. And Domus actually is still in its infancy, in its first phase. It's building an automated real estate agent. A real estate agent, an assistant, you could call it, that helps you with finding and buying a house. Not selling, I mean, that may be the next stage, but currently we only do finding and buying a house. So this basically, we started out with HR, with recruitment, and which is still the foundation of the company, and that's actually what I'm doing in this company. But we got ourselves 2 spin-offs already in the first 1.5 years after we did this technology. So this is where we are today, roughly. Today we're going to talk about this, about the recruitment side. So while I was working for Wacom, Wacom as a company was an extremely innovative company, and maybe you work with products that Wacom has. And we were looking always at what can we do better, what models can we apply. And with this knowledge in mind, I said, when I do my own company, I don't just want to do a company that makes stuff and sells stuff. I want to do it a little bit more, let's say, maybe idealistic is maybe the right word. So I want to do this for a purpose. And that's why we came up with these 4 quadrants, how we want to shape this company. So I'll talk a little bit more, I think, let me see, about this in the next slide, so I'll skip that. It's a bit about new types of business models that we want, that is more community-like, and I hear lots of community experience in this audience already. So actually what we try to combine is these new business models with new technologies, like big data, like neural networks or machine learning. We combine it with exponential paradigms. Who has read the book Exponential Organizations? Who knows this book? No one? Wow, okay. First audience, no one has read this book. I think all make a note, please. Read this book, Exponential Organization. It's really something every one of you should know, because it will change your life, basically. So exponential organizations, or exponential paradigms, actually are methods, way of thinking, how we as companies can achieve stuff that used to be expensive, really quick, really fast, really cheap. And the way they, or let's say the paradigms that are used there, are paradigms like using communities, like using crowds, like using a concept like leveraging assets, so you don't need to own everything yourself. You can make use of data that's there. You can make use of resources that's there. Experimentation, minimal viral products, concept like that. It's all parts of the exponential paradigm concept. It's a book, it's a couple of 100 pages, I can't tell you that now, but it's really interesting, and it gives you a different view on how the world can work. And if you combine all that with old values, so back in the 90s, it was like greed is good, and maybe 80s as well, but that I was still in school. But greed is good, so it's actually, I don't care about this planet, and yeah, let's just grab as much possible money as we can. That all is gone. It's gone, for most people it's gone, and actually also as a positioning of a company is gone. It doesn't really pay off anymore. It's more about these values here. It's more about doing stuff together. It's more about doing stuff ethically. It's more about collaboration, stewardship. That's the kind of values that's really important. And that's the values that we really have put as a foundation under our company. So yes, we are a startup. Yes, we do cool stuff. But yes, we also have these 4 building blocks. I would like to say a little bit more about transformational business models. So, who of you has a Spotify account? Or similar? Or Apple Music or something? Most of you. So when I was young, we would buy CDs. And you have to really, I mean, maybe some of you don't remember, but you really had to own a CD. You had to buy a CD and own a CD. And then you could put it in your player and you could listen to the music. So now I have this account on my phone, and I have any music I want for $10 a month. So that's a completely different business model. I don't own the music anymore, but I have access to it, and I use it. It's a different business model. So there are 2 scientists back in the 90s, Pine and Gilmore, and they were writing a book about how the progression of economic value went on over the years. So how we earn money as society, as companies in society. And they made this model here, where you can see where you can see the different models how to earn money. So they start with extracting commodities. For instance, you can go into mining and get some iron ore out of the soil, out of the earth. And if you have the iron, you can make a car out of that. There's a product making. That's 2. If you make a car, you can service the car. That's 3. That's a product serviced. If you have, that's basically where we were back in the 90s. So you have product sales, you have mining, you have basic industries, you have services. And services were like services, okay, my accountant, if I go to my accountant, he does my books, he says, I worked 6 hours on this, and I charge you that much. So that's a kind of a pay per hour. In Dutch we would say uurtje, factuurtje. And anyway, so this is basically the old model. Then back in the 90s, that was not enough anymore. It was about the experience. It wasn't enough to buy a car. The car had to give you a certain experience. It had to feel a certain way. If you go to the store had to have a certain, let's say, ambience, a certain positioning, they would call that. If you rang the company, the ladies had to be really nice to you and ask you all kinds of questions. So that was the experience economy. And the experience was like all kinds of experiences in, let's say, all kinds of experiences. The physical experience, the online experience. Then now, the question is, what is after this? So what is after this model as a model for earning a living? And they came up with a concept they call the transformation economy. And the transformation economy is not so much about I work an hour, I charge you an hour. It's more about creating a collaborative platform, being in a community, so you will, together, where you more charge for results rather than for what you put into that. And there's different forms of transformation economy. And for us, it means that in the old paradigm or in the current paradigm, it's much more like, okay, if I want to find a new job as a person, I go to several websites and I type in whatever keywords I'm looking for. I use some smart search mechanism. Google knows all about that. This afternoon you can ask them. And then you get back all kinds of results. And then you start filtering the results and say, okay, this is nice. Which is the old way. This is the CD of the labor market, I would say. The new way is that you have a profile, something that you have to find that is basically you doing that work for you. We call it a virtual assistant, and that's basically the core of our solution. It's a different model, it's a different business model, but also a different technology model. And it's a transformational model. And in this transformational model, it's all about meeting people, being part of community, being part of this transformation, basically. That's the core. It's not so much I don't know, I work 4 hours and I charge you 4 hours model. Okay? So exponential organizations have the tendency to grow like this, or exponential marketplaces maybe. And you can see linear marketplaces. If I have one lorry to do transport, I can do 100%. If I have 2 lorries, I can do 200%. If I have 3 lorries, I can do 300%. Well, this is this nice model. The problem with exponential models is that in the beginning, they seem slower, more costly, a lot of effort. But once you progress, they overtake the linear models, and they basically, are much more efficient and effective. Okay? So before we go into the labor market stuff of 8vance, I would like to take you on a little tour on some trends, technology trends, that Gartner Group and some information from IBM and stuff, and some universities. So this is the hype cycle of Gartner Group. Anyone familiar with this kind of, or more hands here? Okay. So the hype cycle basically is it's a graph made by Gartner Group every year, and the latest one is this one, and November, I believe, last year. end of last year published, and it's the one that's now valid basically. So basically, what it shows here is on this graph, you see all kinds of technologies that are in various stages of development, and the graph shows like what is the expectation we have from that technology. And the expectation is rising. You can see expectations are rising, and here they're at the peak of the expectations. So for instance, autonomous vehicles can do anything. So it's like, yeah, that's the total solution, autonomous vehicles, that's all. That when we have that, we solve the world basically. And, or what is it, advanced analytics. But then people start using that because the promise is really high, and then people start finding, okay, wait a minute, it's not that ideal. There's still some problem with this. And then the expectations go down. And what we see is that lots of these technologies, they fly out and we never hear about them anymore. They're just gone. And some of them, they make it to the slope of enlightenment. So they really are here to stay, and they have a meaningful contribution to society. So if you look at what is in this slope here, it's quite an interesting list of new technologies. And this list is basically what should be on your radar, I think. So whether you're involved in it yourself, it's really good to know about this list. And there is a bit more extensive hype cycle if you want to dive in a little bit more. So for instance, like stuff like affective computing or brain-to-computer interface, stuff like quantified self, all that stuff will have a real impact, a pervasive impact on our lives. However, what will happen with this? Smart advisors. So I'm going to talk later on in 8vance about a virtual assistant that we try to make for the HR market. And we see here smart advisors is quite high up in the inflated, let's say, expectation peak. We see here virtual personal assistants. You could also call it a virtual personal assistant. This is more the generic virtual personal assistants like Siri and Cortana and Google Now, all that. Basically, a virtual assistant that can help you with any problem in the world. At the moment, I personally don't believe in that. So I believe more in a concept that you have a specific virtual assistant for a specific task, for now, because the tasks are really, really complex. And also if you talk to autonomous vehicles, where is it again? Here, up here. The level of technology needed that vehicles can act like if they were humans is still quite far away. So I think we still see another 10 years of research before vehicles can autonomously react like we would do now while driving a car. So there is really some interesting stuff going on. We make a lot of progress, but you need to really take into account the maturity of the technology. That's the message here. If you look to Gartner trends for 2015, 2016, so this is the 2015 trend, and this is the 2016 trend. I just copied them from the publications. You can see really interesting stuff. If you look here, advanced machine learning, this is basically where all the automation is, well, not all, but lots of automation is based on. So we're going to talk about the fourth industrial revolution. So that's basically happening, well, starting right now. The reason why it is there is because of this, and because of a couple of these things that are here, like information of everything. Stuff like the ambient user experience, so that your tools, your apps on your phone, your interfacing that you have with your car is kind of one smooth experience, so that the functions of your environment change while you change your environment. Meaning that I maybe have a navigation app on my phone. While I get into my car, very simple example. There are much more complex examples. While I get into my car, this navigation app knows from what I asked before where I need to go to and tells me how to drive. Just does it. Not I need to program my navigation on board of my car, for instance, stuff like that. So we are more in this domain, advanced machine learning. And the industrial revolution has huge impact. The fourth industrial revolution has huge impact on the labor market. Yeah, actually you guys, all of you, are sort of creating this now. Creating this problem, which is not really a problem, I think. But we come to that later. Yeah, just to give you a bit of a taste of what's currently going on. Watson, who knows Watson? IBM Watson. Yeah, a couple of hands. So Watson is an extremely expensive project done by IBM, a huge supercomputer. I believe it's the one and only computer that can stand the Turing test, the test that can distinguish people from, from artificial intelligence. But what is really interesting here is that Watson is not only this big supercomputer. It's about how Watson and Watson-like distributed elements will work together. So we will see little piece of distributed intelligence in, well, in cars and in personal assistants for HR and everything. And the thing will be is that these little bits of artificial intelligence will start talking to each other. And they will talk to me as a person, they will talk to each other, and they will create this network, this distributed cognitive network of functions. And this combination will be much more powerful than one central big Watson. It's really good to have a Watson somewhere because it's very smart. But the network, how we work together, that we work together with a non-flesh and blood assistant at some point, that we will think that's really normal, that's just like around the corner. It's partly already there. It's not something of far future, that's already there. And the meaning that these assistants start talking to each other and start organizing stuff for us is also already sort of there. So this distributed network, that's you need to keep an eye on. And I don't know with TYPO3, but I can imagine that TYPO3 will start programming itself at some point, not far away in the future.
Talking about Skynet.
Yeah. Yeah. The word is actually here in Venlo. I forgot the name of the company, but there's a 3D printer that prints itself. So there's a 3D printer that can print its own parts, and if something is broken, it repairs itself. And it can actually reproduce, sort of. It can print itself, and you have another 3D printer. So it's, this stuff is currently happening. Yeah, then we get a little bit more towards the HR stuff. So this is a research done, I think, by Cambridge. Yeah, Cambridge and Stanford, where they took a large sample of the population with more than 100 more than 100 likes on Facebook. So they need to have enough content, and they looked how accurate their Facebook profile would be able to predict their personality. This is done using the 5-trait Big Five. It's a psychological modeling tool. And there's the 5-trait average. They concluded that only the spouse, the husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, was better in predicting the person's Big Five score, basically. So, like friends and co-workers and relatives were not as good in predicting this person's profile than their Facebook profile. And this was done with massive numbers, so it's not like we did just one test and it happened. This was done with a massive number, meaning that having a Facebook profile with enough substance, so if you have only 2 entries over 10 years, but if you have enough in there, it can give you a lot of information about a person. So it reveals a lot about who one is and what one does. That's interesting, just interesting to know. And it gives also a basis for it gives us a feeling for that numbers really are also quantifying our personality. I was we were part of a e-recruitment day organized by eMers, a Dutch marketing company. And actually we won the startup contest there, but that's at the side. But in that presentation there was someone from the company called Neurolabs giving a presentation about how we people judge other people. So basically how we people, how our brain reacts to other people. And what he did, we were there in Amsterdam, we were there like 500 people in the room, and he put on pairs of pictures, of male pictures, men. And these were pictures from elections in the United States, regional elections, so people we wouldn't know. And they would ask us, who of the two is more knowledgeable, who would you trust more? Just by looking at the pictures. And would it be the right-hand person, the left-hand person, and then the audience had to vote. And 80–90% of the audience voted for the same person. And he repeated it a few times. And the conclusion was that we all voted for the winner of that election without knowing this person, without knowing the election. And so basically, long story short, is when we look at pictures at people, our brain, actually he called it reptile brain, our old brain, that's really deep down, looks at stuff which is basically overrules our more sophisticated brains. And for instance, one of the statistical, let's say, analysis they did is that people with a big mouth, I mean a physically big mouth, a real big mouth, men, I should say, it's only for men, are seen as more trustworthy, more powerful, more competent, more knowledgeable. And so that's a really interesting finding. So without knowing anything about anyone, can I see some eyes? Yes. There's some high potentials in this room, I have to say. some high potentials, yeah. I see the next Bundeskanzler is already is here. But anyway, so actually it's not for women, by the way. It's only for men. But it's really interesting. And this also is adding to the theory that data may be a much better advisor than your brain, basically. Okay. So the fourth industrial revolution. There was a conference in Davos, I think in January, I believe. Yeah, just recently. And this is a piece from the FT. And now the political leaders understood that it will really, that smart machines will change the world. So what to do with it? So smart machines do everything. Smart machines program the next websites. So what to do with all the programmers? They all have to do back-end stuff, maybe? I don't know. But, sorry?
Make the smart machines.
Yeah, make the smart machines, maybe, yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can, how many smart machines do you need? That's the question. But anyway, so, maybe smart machines make smarter machines, yeah. Anyway, so basically the problem is clear, I think. The problem is there, it's on everyone's mind, but there's also an opportunity. If you look at these figures, just take a look at this. Just let them work at you. So I will talk about these one by one. So maybe the most disturbing one first. So research has said, Oxford research has said that half of the jobs in the US by 2035 will disappear. Half of the jobs that we have now today, that we know now today. They will be replaced with other jobs, but we don't know them yet. But half of the jobs that we have today will be gone. Deloitte did a research for the Netherlands, and I guess it's sort of similar for Germany, since the economies are quite similar, is that about 2 to 3 million jobs will be lost in the Netherlands, which is about 1/3 in the next 10 years, 1/3. And that 1/3 might also be true for Germany. So this means quite a lot. Actually, what it means is that we now have people here at this university here studying stuff, or for Occupations Day, we don't know which will we have in 10 years from now. So the students, I'm not saying forget about what you're doing, that's maybe the wrong advice, but pay attention to your broad skill set. So your basic skill set, that what you can apply in various situations, becomes much more important than a specific skill set, if you are a student at least. Another thing that we are, I think in the Netherlands, we are kind of a king of the world, that's flexibilization of the labor market. I think being a employer in Germany for, I don't know, 12 years, Germany is totally different mentality, different mindset when it comes to flexibilization. So the worlds separate very much. But nevertheless, whatever country you choose, flexibilization will happen. The workforce will become much more flexible. In the Netherlands, we see that in the old days, we had like, a company had like 80–90% fixed staff and maybe 10% flexible staff for certain, occasions. This is turning around. It will be a really small, maybe 20% fixed staff, 80% flexible staff. It will take a while, but we will go there. It will be much more flexible. And whether legislation will try to stop that for a while, maybe they can, but that's where it will go to, because the society will be much more flexible. Gallup research interviewed hundreds of thousands of people in, I think, 127 countries. Did I put it in? No, I didn't put it in. Basically, what they found is that most people, 87%, are to a certain degree not happy at work. 87%. So that's what I said is, okay, if 87% is not happy, then, and half of the jobs disappear, so what's the problem? Unfortunately, maybe that's not how it works, but that was my first reaction. So, but 87% is to a certain extent not happy with what they do. And only 13% is kind of perfectly happy and really do what they like to do. And that's the people, the 13% is the people that are doing the innovation, are moving stuff forward. This is the people that we talk to when we talk about strategy. There's only this 13%. So there is even 24% of people that is actively undermining the company they work for, almost a quarter. I have to say this is the average. For the Netherlands, it's lower. It's 23%. So I didn't look up the figures for Germany. This is just a research you can look up on the internet. It's there. It gives you all the details of all the countries. So look up your own country. But a quarter of people that is actively undermining the company. Sorry?
No, I was just telling him 15 of your developers are undermining your company. It's an interesting thought. So
yeah. Maybe your company is the exception. Maybe your company is the exception. But indeed, it's a really interesting thought. If a quarter of the population of your company is undermining. So there's then this big group of people, 63%.
I also think with these figures, there's also this saying, it takes all kinds to make a world. So 100% happy, engaged, maybe it's a healthy balance.
I'm not saying we need 100% happy, engaged, but that this is really striking that over 60% of people is kind of so-so, like, yeah, I do this, but yeah. I mean, that's not a way, I mean, to make a living and to live. I mean, life is too short for that, I think, personally. That's one. And second, a quarter of people is undermining a company on average. Then, especially visible in Germany. Well,
do you really believe this, the 25%? Is it also in your company like this? You have you think it's in your company also like this? Because I don't think in our company it's like this. I don't think there's anyone who is really actively disengaged.
I like to think that it is not in my company. I like to think it's in others' company. But I think there are, let's say, sectors and industries and companies who are more susceptible for this problem than others. Anyway, I need to move a bit faster. So, and then there is a job and skills mismatch, which is actually already now here today. And especially if you look at the German economy, we see that there is a lot of mismatch between jobs and what is on offer, basically. And even if we would have better systems that would connect the skills that people have with the jobs that are on offer where these skills are asked, then we would be able to reduce on European scale the unemployment with 1/3. Just by having smarter systems that connect that. Anyway, interesting ideas to think about. This is what the industrial revolution really means for us. So this is me actually a couple of years ago in my suit and tie phase. This is actually in the Mercedes-Benz how's it called? No, not the boardroom. Actually, it's in Berlin. This building has a fantastic name. I forgot the name. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we basically were in the phase where we were really rapidly growing as a company. In this case, Wacom, and this is what we wanted. So this is from the employer side. This is what I wanted. These are my kids. I have 3 kids, and these kids will go to the labor market in about 10 years, 10 to 15 years for the youngest. These kids will be in a labor market where, so my dad, for instance, had 2 jobs in his life, and he would cycle from home to the factory where he worked. I actually have 5 now, if I count this as a job. And I worked in several countries. And my kids will have 30 assignments, maybe, in their lifetime. So the frequency where you have to switch, for most of you younger people here, will go up dramatically. And the question is, how do you organize that? How do you stay employed over time? Over 40 years career? That's really a question. So we need to help this new generation in their employability, as the nice word says. How to stay valid for the labor market and having a capacity to earn your income over a longer period of time. So the needs, if you summarize them, is as companies for recruitment, I want to have a much better visibility on the talent landscape, and I want to recruit faster, better, and cheaper. The needs for me as a talent, I want to know what my opportunities are, and actually I need to support to organize my income over time in an extremely flexible situation. And I want some, let's say, self-effectuation as well, maybe. Okay? So if you put all this together, the trends and the needs, then our solution was, back to the beginning of the story, a virtual assistant. So we have basically well, the virtual assistant's name is AMA, which stands for Automatic Intelligent Matching Agent. And AMA is a lady, as you can see. It's the lady in white, not in red. And actually, we first were building a platform where people had to go to and put stuff in, and then the platform would give answers back. And at some point we said, well, that's actually it's not going to do it. There are too many platforms, too many apps. We need a real virtual assistant, a real assistant, really a person you can talk to and say, okay, look, this is me, this is what I did, and this is what I can do, and this is what I want to do. And please search me something, find me something. This is what we really want. That's what we concluded, at least. And the same goes for employers, or recruiters. They tell AMA what they're looking for, and AMA does the work for them. So what does AMA do? What's the proposition of AMA? It does automatic talent scouting on the web and looking for hard skills as well as soft skills. So when I was in management and we were recruiting many, many people, we did not let go people because of their hard skills. Almost not. I mean, hardly ever happened. We mostly let go people, if we had to let go people, was because of incompatibility on the personality side. They didn't fit the team, they had different morale for stuff, whatever, and it didn't. That's why we had to let go people. Not so much because of the hard skills match. So the soft skill side is actually extremely important and is completely ignored in the data outside on the web, except for Facebook maybe. So talent, what do talents need and what do they get from AMA is an automated vacancy scouting. And they get back basically a landscape, a personal job market, which we depict in a kind of a landscape, where they are themselves, they are in the middle of that landscape, and the opportunities are around them. And they can find their own route in that personal labor market, which they define themselves. Oh. Another part, which is more corporate proposition for companies, is that you can make the perfect team with a solution like this, and that you can organize internal mobility in companies, because that's also a way of career. Career is not always outside of companies, it's always also inside of companies. Oh, so we have been doing beta testing for, well, almost half a year now. And what we found is if you use these kind of, let's say, concept solutions, for recruiters, the costs go down about 70% of the recruitment process, not so much of the process after the person has been found, but 70%. The process has the average throughput time of 8 weeks shrunk to a little bit under 2 weeks. The reach, the number of candidates companies would be able to see and evaluate, was 50 times more on average than before. The match quality was better, and since we also look at soft skills, people are, let's say, more engaged because the fit is much better. So the talent side, actually, we haven't done this yet. So this is expected talent advantage. The talent side is something, and maybe some of you will want to help us on that. What we want to do as a next step in the company is make AMA available for talents, for individual people in an app, on your phone, where you can tell AMA, this is me, this is how I am, this is what I've done, this is what I can do, or I learned, and this is what I would like to do. And then AMA does that for you. That's what we actually currently are working on to get out in a kind of a test phase. Well, probably after summer.
I got a question on that.
Oh, yeah.
How do you solve the problem that people will constantly overrate themselves?
Or underrate.
Because, yeah, well, the main thing is you all know this personality test that everybody can do, you know, in all the magazines. You're constantly overrating yourself.
Yeah. We have tests ourselves. We did lots of experiments with that. And we had 2 categories in our tests. Those who overrate themselves and those who underrate themselves. And those who overrate themselves, we normally would call man. And those who underrate themselves, we would call women. And that's a 99% correlation, I have to say. So yes, that is a problem, but that's a problem with all the assessments and tests there are. And yeah, we need to figure a solution for that. Yeah, that's true. I agree. But if we need to start somewhere. And we summarized that in a little clip, a 1-minute clip that shows you basically how AMA should work. Let me see if I can do it. So this is the end of the 8vance stuff. I have a few slides on technology. So I have to look at Edward. I still have 5 minutes. Shall we do that, or how AMA works, basically?
If people are interested,
Yeah? You'd like to see that? So AMA, it's easy for us to depict or to see AMA as a person and talk to this person. But actually, it's not a person, of course. It's an algorithm, basically. But it's algorithm. It's also that is a little bit maybe it's really a complex system. So if you divide up the AMA into pieces, then the most important part is what we call deep matching. That is, we basically, let's say, looked at the word deep learning, and we made our own variation of that, which is an own matching technology that we've developed in-house, which basically can match like recruits, like people, like humans would match. So the thing is that, well, we probably not aware, but if you have a list of competences and experiences, and you compare that with a completely different list of competences which have no relation. So you played soccer, I played handball. How do I compare that? Well, we can do that. We, as humans, we can compare, let's say, unequal parameters. And that's really difficult for systems. So that's what we have developed. That's the basis for all our the basis of AMA, basically. And what we put in there as well is an expert system, a statistical and a rule-based expert system, where we put in all the rules recruiters use. And we combine that with our matching algorithm. Then we put in a lot of data, which, of course, is mostly text, so it has to be interpreted. So we need computational linguistics. And this data again, trains AMA and understands, and let AMA understand how the labor market works. Maybe to give you a little bit of an idea, it's not in this picture, is what we basically are doing is we're building a hypercube. Actually, it's difficult to imagine a hypercube with multi dimensions. About 10,000 dimensions are in there. But if you would shrink it to 3 dimensions, this hypercube would be a cube where we say job types, levels, and industries on the 3 axes. And per combination, we would gather all the skills and competences and experiences which are typical for that combination. And then where a CV of me or ein Lebenslauf is actually a path through that cube. And that's how we compare resumes and experiences of people, basically. In order to do the talent analytics, back to your question, we have developed an own model which we say can, done, desire, me. So what can I do, what have I done, what would I like to do, and who am I as a person? And we compare that, we call that the talent DNA. And then of course, interaction and visualization is really important. So how does AIMA interact with people? And how do we visualize that? That's really important. And we are thinking, actually, we now have a platform that people have to go to and you can download an app and all that. But actually, ideally, we just want to be in everyone's WhatsApp. You just have a WhatsApp contact called AIMA. And you can ask AIMA all the questions, all the HR questions, you think are relevant. That's what we really want to do. And that's what we're currently looking at. But unfortunately, at the moment, WhatsApp doesn't allow us to use their interface. But I think that's a matter of time, I hope.
Can I have a question on the last slide? Where or how exactly do you find the data or the data sources? So do you just crawl the web, or do you say, okay, we as programmers or whatever designers of AIMA say, okay, because I see about me, let's crawl about me because it could be a promising data point, or how do you decide on that?
Well, I think we have, like, at the moment in this phase, we have like 7 or 8 sources that we look at, which is Xing and About Me and LinkedIn, and I think it's Viadeo, it's academia. .edu, it's ResearchGate, it's even more. We have a few. That's where we look at when we want to understand how people are. Only public profiles, so we don't do any illegal stuff. Sorry?
Do I have to provide the links on my own because
no, they're all just public. So we just you just.
Yeah, but there are maybe several profiles on Xing with the same name. How
Yeah.
do you know it?
Well, we do data aggregation. Yes, that's true. That was on the next slide, actually. Data aggregation. So basically, if we find your profile on LinkedIn, Xing, and About Me, and several places, and we see a large, let's say, correlation between the profiles, then we do a aggregation. And maybe you have even an own profile on 8vance with more details. Then we aggregate everything. And what we also do is we do interpretation of data. So the problem with LinkedIn and Xing and all these profiles is that they're not updated. They're always outdated. So basically what we do is we look at these profiles and say, okay, this person has this experience and these skills and these competences. If he has this experience, these skills and these competences, he probably also has these skills and these competences, which he didn't mention. But statistically, it's almost impossible he doesn't have them. And so we add them to this profile with a lower weighting factor, but automatically we add them. And that's why we get a much more comprehensive image of someone. And we have more links to that person via the different networks.
So if I were to use this, where's the catch? Because I can't imagine you are such a nice guy that you give me all these job opportunities. So how do you, where's the money, or where?
Revenue.
Yeah, how do you?
What's the business model?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so for the moment, we are not sure about the candidate side of things, but it's for free, basically. So we think that the business model should be on the company side. Yeah, that's the current.
You also pay with your data.
Well, if you make a profile, so basically if we get your profile from a public source, that's fine. We have it anyway. But if you make an own profile, you spend some time in profiling yourself inside 8vance, then we can validate your profile, but also other profiles with that. And that means that we get smarter by having you in our system. I'm not personally get smarter, but the system gets smarter. Yeah.
As a heretic question, so I as an employer pay you, so IMA tells my employees to switch jobs?
That could happen, yes. Yeah. 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 So it could be that employees have a also AMA agent, and it doesn't really say that you should switch jobs. It only makes your employees aware of the opportunities.
But if we are the employees of
the
a
opportunity and selling point would be to actually inform companies that the current work that you offer to your employees doesn't fit the intended profile of the employee. So I, as an employer, want to be able to steer against that in order to not lose the employee.
Well, that's actually what we're currently doing with some big companies. I can't mention the name at the moment, but basically what we're currently doing is we're looking at a merger of two companies, where some people have to move to a new positions in a combined company, and some people have to go. And so basically we make, without all the legal aspects, because there are lots of legal aspects there, we make a judgment who is best fit for the job in the new combination of companies. And then the people that are left over at the end of the day, we're going to find work for them as well by looking to the available opportunities. What I just mentioned in the proposition is internal, let's say, migration of people is really important. It doesn't need to say that your staff needs to go outside. But if someone is really under challenge, or there's another reason why this person is maybe has better opportunities, then you're probably the first to know. Yeah.
How's the mistake ratio, and do you come back to the employees or staff after you have suggested a job switch and ask them how was that for them?
Yeah, so the staff side we don't do yet. That's only will start after summer.
Right.
The recruitment side we are currently rolling out. So maybe ask me in half a year. In the beta, the mistake rate was extremely low.
What means extremely?
We had, in all the cases, we had maybe maybe 3 cases where our advice could have been better. Yeah, out of hundreds of cases. Yeah.
I mean, 3 out of 3 is 50%.
Hundreds of cases. Yeah.
Okay, could this happen that somebody
But it was not really a
to switch a job and afterwards it comes to the situation that this was a software error?
Change log fixed.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you're perfectly right, and I think the software error will happen. And I'm not saying we are completely flawless, but what I'm saying is that the human system we have today, has many, many more flaws, because people judge people by the size of their mouth. For instance. Yeah. So you're well off there, I have to say. Yeah. 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 No, but basically, it's not so much that this system will never fail. It will fail. But the system is adding a new dimension to a process, which basically the costs will go down, the match will be better, the process will be faster, and the need for this kind of process will be extremely high. And in a few years from now, it's not only 8vance, but many companies will do stuff like that. I'm sure about that. We leave it with this, I think.
I think so too.
More questions, maybe? One last question? No? Okay. Thank you very much.